It's your girl, Lady Mocha. You know I'm always going to pour you a cup of truth, and I'm always going to break you off a slice of knowledge. Hello, hey, good evening. It is your girl, Lady Mocha. I want to thank all of you for stopping in to dine with me at Cafe de Paris. Was good. I know a lot of you, if you didn't been keeping up, I did my third live chat. I believe it was my third one, third or fourth. I did it last Friday, and it was extremely long. I went into almost 3 hours. So I realized that I'm definitely going to have to learn how to start shortening my time when I'm doing live chatting, because live chatting is totally different compared to recording your videos prior, like what I'm doing now. Because when you're in the process of live chatting, that's when you're holding a conversation and you have different people, asking you questions during your live chat. You're trying to respond to everybody that's chatting on the video, because you don't want to let anybody be left out. But I realize it's very time consuming, and if you don't monitor the time, if you don't keep up with the time, you can really go into 3 hours, and that is what I have realized. So I'm definitely going to start working on my timing a little bit better. So for some of you who did tune in Friday, and I understand if some of you fell off or disconnected because the video was just entirely too long. But like I always say, I'm an infant in the game. So just like you guys get to view all of the videos, I view all of my videos as well, and I critique myself. And as I watch my videos, that is my time to where I get to learn how to do things a little bit better, how to be a little bit more effective, how to be a little bit more professional. So just keep in mind that I am keeping up with how I need to coordinate my videos a little bit better. But that is just one thing I felt like needed to be addressed, that I need to work on my timing when it comes to live chatting. But I just get in such a hype, and I get so excited talking to all my subscribers, and I like to answer every question for every one of them who be trying to reach out to me. So just keep in mind, I just get really excited sometimes, and I can ramble forever. But I do realize that time is very delicate, and time just cannot be wasted, and we have to use time accordingly. So I just wanted to go ahead and address that. But with that being said, I have a new recipe that is on today's menu. Okay, today's recipe that I'm going to be serving you is called not happily married, but miserably married. Yes. And the reason why I call this recipe miserably married is because there are a lot of miserable married folks out there. Yes, I said it, okay? Everything that glitters is not gold. You can't always judge a book by its picture. I know that when y'all go on social media, y'all see all of these happy couples in their profile pictures, all hugged up, all booed up, all talking about their boo, I talk about their husband, what their husband bought them, what their husband took them, and what their wife did for them, and all of that. And all of that is wonderful. But behind closed doors, things are never the way they seem. And it is your girl, Lady Mocha, and I'm going to represent, and I'm going to always tell you the truth and nothing but the truth. And it's not to discourage anybody from being married. It is not to make all married couples look phony or make all married couples look bad. However, we do have to deal with the reality that marriage is not always what it's cracked up to be. And everybody that's married does not mean they're happily married. You can be married, but not happily married. There's a difference between the two. So for all of you who are married, maybe the things that I discussed to you today will be an eye-opener, maybe to give you a revelation that you're not as happy as you thought you were. And for those who are considering marrying, but you're not really sure if it's the best thing to do, maybe this recipe could be an eye-opener for you as well, and give you some things to look for. And maybe it's some things you've seen, but you just never paid any attention to it. So you know how I operate. I'm going to always break down things to the lowest common denominator. Y'all know how I operate. So with that being said, we're going to move forward with today's message, which is miserably married. Okay, this lesson is pertaining to folks that are married but miserable because they are not in marriage for the right reasons. Everything that looks shiny isn't gold. Today I'm going to break down all of the elements for married folks that are miserable And maybe you don't think you are miserable in your marriage, but you are in denial about your misery, or either you just don't want to face it. Today, I will break down all the signs for all my married but miserable folks out there, okay? Starting with sign number 1. Now, keep in mind, as I said before, all marriages have their own journey. There's going to be some twists, there's going to be some turns, some ups and downs, some hurdles to jump and mountains to climb, because no marriage is perfect. So that's the first and foremost thing. We have to be careful with placing too many high expectations on marriages, because I don't care what marriage you get in, there's going to be some challenges and there are going to be some obstacles, okay? But today I will break down all of the signs, all right? However, some marriages are just straight doomed and have no chance of recovering, depending on the amount of damage that has been done. Okay, the reason why I speak on this is because there, as I stated, marriages are going to have the ups and downs. They're going to go through changes. They're going to run its courses. Nothing ever stays the same, and that's a good thing, and that could be a bad thing, okay? But in some cases, there's been too much collateral damage that has been done for a marriage to even get to the point of repairment. For example, have you ever been in an accident and your car has been totaled so severely to the point that when an appraiser came out and inspected that car and inspected that total car, they already told you, hey, we're going to have to total this vehicle. It's not drivable. It's not worth repairing. It's not worth fixing. It's beyond the capacity of being repairable. It's just totally damaged. It's a total loss. That's the case with some of these marriages. A lot of these marriages are a total loss, but yet people are still fighting to hold on for their own personal agendas, and we're going to go into that later. Some marriages just have gone through too much for it to be repaired, for it to be restored. And in some cases, we really don't want to accept that. We really don't want to get to that place to state to ourselves and be honest with ourselves and say, my marriage has hit its breaking point. And a lot of people are going around here in these marriages, you know, putting up a front, playing a role, acting like they're maintaining, and meanwhile, emotionally, they're not feeling it, and mentally, they're not feeling the marriage, because too much damage has been done. Damage has too many lies, too much cheating, too much disrespect, you know, just too much of anything that's not healthy, anything that's not good, you know, and it's just been too much damage that has been done. You know, it's too many lies that's been told. You know, you have some couples, their marriage has been built off of a lie. You know, there's been no genuine love, no genuine compassion, no genuine emotions. You know, a lot of people just sometimes get together out of fear of not having to be alone, or to having to raise their children alone. It's all type of reasons, you know, that people are in these unhealthy or in marriages and are miserable in these marriages. But I'm going to continue to keep moving forward, so all of you guys out there and all of you ladies out there could continue to get an extra understanding as to what I'm saying. So that's the first reason. Depending on how much the amount of damage that has been done, there is just no recovering, okay? It's just a done deal. The second reason a lot of people miserably married is because some people are in their marriage only because they fear that man or woman is going to do better with someone else. I can't even begin to tell you how many couples have not learn to be genuinely compassionate about their companion until they got put in a situation where their companion almost got slipped from underneath them from another man and another woman. And I notice this a lot. You know, every marriage has its dry spells. Every marriage has its you know, ugly moments to when you argue, you get into it, you say things out of pocket because you're angry, you both in your feelings, so you're not thinking straight. You know, you're too busy trying to win an argument or too busy trying to win your own point, that things can just go left. And what happens sometimes is, depending on how severe the situation is at the time, couples have a tendency to separate, okay? Which is cool. Sometimes it's good to separate. It's better than staying under the same household and trying to kill each other or put each other in the hospital or something like that, especially if you know the relationship is abusive and it's toxic. toxic. So sometimes you do have to separate. But what gets me is that when some of these married couples separate, they already be going out there on the prowl, already hooking up with other people. It's men already hooking up with other women, knowing they're still married legally. And so are women already out there on the prowl, looking and searching for a new prey to conquer, and knowing they still married, you know. And that's the sad part about it, is that these people will step out, go hook up and go connect with other people. And what happened is, in some cases, the mate can become so intimidated by who their companion is dating or who their companion is seeing, and they will become so threatened to the point too, it will make them actually do whatever it takes to win that person back, even if they have gotten blatantly disrespected in the process. And another thing I want to state with this is, I don't know too many men who do it. Most men, when they have been disrespected, I mean, any man that has any real dignity or self-confidence, because men these days are taking way more crap than I've ever seen before. Men these days are taking way more crap than toilets at a baseball game, but that's a whole nother subject, okay? But most of the time, it's not too many men that keep going back and dealing with women who have disrespected them, who have mistreated them. It's not too many men that do it. But it's a lot of women, I noticed, that in a marriage, when they hit a boiling point, and there's, you know, they get to that point to where they bickering and arguing, and, you know, they can't we come to an agreement with the husband, and the marriage just hits a rocky course. And sometimes women will call that man's bluff and say, won't you get the hell out of my house? You go deal with some other broad. I don't need you. I can do better without you. Let's let these other hoes in the street have you. It's so many women that will call a man's bluff and say things like that. And then when that man decides, okay, if that's how you want to play it, you want to put me out, you want to tell me to get the hell on, you're going to tell me, or I can see any woman I want to see, because you think you are you the catch. So basically, you feel like you doing me a favor. And like anybody else, men have their pride too, you know. And there's so many women that will say things like that out of anger and know they don't mean it. It's so many women who have done that. Get the hell out my house. Go see that hoe you've been messing with, blah, blah, blah. Knowing you don't mean it, but because you're so angry and you in such hostility with the marriage not going the way you want to go, you would give this man the front door and tell him he can get the hell on. And the moment he does, and you see him moving on, he's happy with another woman. He seems more content, and you see that he's doing things for her that he didn't do for you. Now you fighting like a cat in the alley. Now you want to call him and go off on him after you don't put him out, after you told him to get the hell on and you don't need him. Now you want to call him, oh, how you already out dating other women? All I told you was you can get the hell on. That didn't mean for you to move on and get with somebody else, and I'm still your wife. And it's funny how a lot of women want to use the wife word when they feel threatened. When they feel threatened that their husband is going to leave them for good, or they feel threatened that he's happier with another woman than what he was with her. They quick to want to use that wife word, but they don't ever think about the word wife when they get mad, want to put a man out, want to threaten a man, tell a man you don't love him, you don't need him, you don't care about him. But the moment you feel like he's getting ready to move on for good and never look back, oh, you get real threatened. And especially if the woman he's with at that point in time, even though he's wrong, if he's still married to you. Because the best thing to do is, you know, if you know you're going to be with somebody else, guys, all women, don't lead your other mate on. You know what I'm saying? But in some cases, you know, married people, they separate, and sometimes you don't look to always run into people, but you do. And that's usually when it happens, because like I always say, married people can always get somebody quicker than single people. It's designed that way. I don't know why it is, but that's why a lot of that's why there's so many marital issues in a marriage, because married people can always find somebody to deal with them. And it shouldn't even be that way, but let's face it, we're in a world where nobody follows the rules these days, okay? We're lacking morals, we're lacking values. So, you know, people are not respecting the game the way it's supposed to be respected. So anyway, like I said, I've seen women who get so threatened, and even though they know they're miserable, or they know the man they're with is miserable with them, just the thought of knowing this man is going to move on and possibly be happier with somebody else, it does something to a woman's self-esteem. It does something to her dignity, you know. And even though in her heart she knows the relationship or the marriage has hit its course, just the fact of knowing he's going to be happy with that other woman, she would rather have it to where he stay with her and be miserable than for him to be more at peace and be happy with another woman. You know what I'm saying? Because again, it's all about that one up. Broken women have this attitude where everything is all about one up. It's all about winning. Even if I'm miserable, I don't want the next woman winning. I don't want her being happy with something that should have been mine, even that's mine, even though it's not happy with me. It is crazy the level of mentality that women will think upon just to condone being in a marriage that's making them miserable. You know what I'm saying? So you just have some folks that are like that. They would rather you be miserable with them, and they stay in marriages. You got a lot of people that are staying in these miserable marriages because they are so afraid that if they let go of these toxic marriages, that man is going to move on and do better with the next woman. It is so crazy. They would rather stay miserable than to see the man move on and be happy, you know. And that's just, unfortunately, that's just something that a lot of miserable but married couples are doing. And just to give you a better indication, you know, meaning that you have some people that would rather be miserable and married than to set that person free and allow them to be happy with someone else. And in cases, hell, allow themselves to be happy with someone else, you know. Some folks are willing to sacrifice their happiness on their mates or their mate's happiness. In other words, I would rather you stay with me and be miserable than to move on with someone and make them happy. If I can't be happy with you, I'm damn sure not going to allow anybody else to be happy either. I'm telling you guys, I'm telling you ladies, you got your companion. If you know your relationship is already at its course, it's just, and that person just don't want to let go, and they know the marriage is not, you know, growing, and if I get to the next level, they still do not want you to move on and do better with someone else. It is what it is. The next reason we have a lot of miserably married couples is a lot of them are together for the sake of the kids. For the sake of the kids, ironically, women intentionally have a lot of children, not considering the fact that if the marriage fails, they won't be capable of raising those children alone, you know. And men also stay for the sake of their children because they love the benefits, claiming them as dependents or whatever the case may be. In some cases, some men stay in marriages to be miserable because they don't want to pay child support, and then others, they don't want another man fathering their children. And you know, I can understand as a man or as a woman, when you really love your children, just the thought of knowing somebody else is going to be in that child's life, and that child is going to know that person as another mom or another father, it can be really intimidating. It could be a really unpleasant experience, you know, because you have some people, they are very family oriented. They do not believe breaking up their families at no cost. So you have some couples that, okay, even if we're going to be miserable, that's fine. I just don't want my child being raised by another man, or I don't want to pay child support. Me and my wife got 6, 7 kids. I don't want to pay all that child support. You know, as the saying goes, it's cheaper to keep her. And you have a lot of broken women that are doing this. I mentioned this on one of my videos. I think it's called Having Babies to Save Marriages, or Producing Babies to Save Marriages, whatever it's called. It's so many women out there that are intentionally keep having children and these marriages that they know they're not miserable in, but it's all about trying to lock the man in. It's all about trying to trap that person. They want to make sure that regardless of how miserable they are with one another, they have all of these children to make sure that man cannot leave. That man would not want to go anywhere, especially if she knows that the man is a family man, that the man is a spiritual man, that the man has a lot of patience and he's willing to weather the storms no matter what. Or she knows that man does not want his children to be raised by another man, or whatever the case may be. And you have some women who play on that. I've heard women say, you know, I know my husband loves his children. He ain't going nowhere. Even though the marriage was, you know, watered down, you know, the marriage just was dead. I mean, the marriage was on life support, literally, you know what I'm saying? But you have some women that panic and fear that their husbands are going to leave them, that their companions are going to leave them, so they would just keep producing children and keep adding more responsibilities into the marriage as a weapon in the event that the man wants to leave, or the man wants to, you know, no longer be in a marriage. You know what I'm saying? So it's all kind of tricks and strategies that broken people will do out there. You know what I'm saying? So just keep that in mind. The next reason is like the reason I just indicated, for the sake of the kids. That's why a lot of people are miserably married. The other reason is women remain married out of fear of not being independent. It's so many women, guys, ladies, and if you want to be truthful and co-sign with me on this, you know what I'm saying? You know, you have a lot of women that are not that independent. They're not that in other words, they're not capable of taking care of themselves, whether it's financially or whether if it's emotionally or mentally. You have some women, they will stay in these miserable marriages just to avoid having to be independent, go out there and get a job and hold down the fort on their own, or in case of if they are married and got jobs, you know what I'm saying? They know that if they were to leave their marriages, all the bills and all the children, all the responsibility is going to be on them. So they're not going to have the privilege to spend money the way they used to spending it, as you know, in the case when they were with the husband who was paying the majority of the bills, so she was able to shop and splurge and spend money how she wanted. You know, you have a lot of women that fear having to go out there and tackle and fight the world on their own. They don't want to pay these bills by themselves. They don't want to raise these children by themselves. So you have a lot of them that are willing to be miserably married just to avoid having to be a single mom. Because a lot of them know that when they go step back out into the world, especially when they're leaving out there with a package bundle, meaning a bunch of children, which means 9 times out of 10 you're going to come with debt. You're going to come with all other financial obligations if you have children. That's just part of being parenting. And a lot of them know there's no man out there that's going to take on to them with no 5, 6, 7 children. You know what I'm saying? They know if the woman doesn't have children, they know the chances of a man dealing with them, and they have all kind of debt. You know what I mean? They know it's hard going out there getting another man to pick up what a husband left off. It's just not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So that's just something. That's another reason that there's a lot of miserably married women out there. You know, they just fear having to be independent, having to take care of themselves. You know, so used to the husband paying the bills, being a provider. Like my girl in the movie Waiting to Excel said, her Bernadette, that part was played by you know, old girl from I can't think of her name, but old girl from What's Love Got to Do with It or whatever. But anyway, I remember when she said, you know, one part in the scene when she said, some of us women become too lazy with looking out for ourselves. And that's the case with a lot of women. They will bog themselves down. Angela Bassett, that was her name. She played Bernadette. So many women will bog themselves down with so much responsibilities in a marriage that if they ever had the opportunity to leave, they would never leave it, no matter how miserable they are, because they got too much baggage. They're not about to step out there in that world with all that baggage. It's not happening. So they rather stay in their marriages and be miserable, honey, than avoid having to go out there and pay them bills by themselves and take care of them children by themselves. So, I mean, it is what it is. But that's another reason why some people are miserably married. The next reason you have a lot of miserably married couples is some men or women only return because of what the streets wasn't offering. In other words, some have tried to move on and wasn't able to. Many couples move on and leave their marriages just to spite their companion. Sooner or later, they discover the streets doesn't have nothing to offer them. This has happened in so many cases, you know. Again, every husband and wife has had that period where they had to cool off and separate for the moment. Whether if you had to go crash this homeboy house or she had to go crash to her mom's house, you know, just have that cooling period time till things cool off. But in some instances, some couples try to actually move on. You know, they try to start going out there redating again once they have come to the conclusion that they really don't want to keep fighting for the marriage anymore. So you have some of them, they'll actually go out there and try to redate. And what happens is, in many cases, you have gotten so accustomed to this person who's been in your life for so long, who's allowed you to be a certain way, who's allowed you to, you've learned to function in the world a certain way based on the type of companion you have been with for a long time. And what happens is, when you got there in the dating world, people are going to be less reluctant to conforming to things the way you're used to dealing with it. You know what I'm saying? An example would be, if you're a man that's used to having a woman that's if you've been married to a woman for a long time that's a homebody chick, never runs the street, never clubs, never parties, and you've been with a woman that's always conducted herself like that with at least 5 to 10 years within the marriage, you go back out there in the dating world, you may start dating another woman, you know, things starting off smooth, calm, collective, but you notice over time that as y'all get serious, she loves to run the streets. You know what I'm saying? She's not one of them wives that's a homebody like the wife you was used to. Okay, your wife, your ex-wife or your ex-companion would never fucking need to run the streets. So they was content with being home, keeping the kids, cooking, cleaning. But here it is, this woman that you're dating now, she's not built like that. You know what I mean? And because you are used to having that type of woman, it's going to get frustrating. And I'll be honest with you guys, sometimes marriage has a way of spoiling you. It will spoil you in the strangest ways. You know, it's going to be challenges. Like I always say, no marriage is perfect, regardless of what. But you get spoiled a certain way. Your mate has a way of spoiling you, and you don't even realize that till you have to go back out there and face the real world. Like with my husband, I am so used to him just being the main financial breadwinner of my household. Okay, he's always been the financial provider. Even when I was working and had my job, only thing I had to pay for was like my little car note or whatever else, you know. All the light bill, the mortgage at the time before we paid our home off, everything was on him. And he has spoiled me to that, you know. And then I remember when we had a little rift period and I was dating or talking to someone, you know, in the midst of our separations and stuff, before we officialized everything. And I remember I met a guy one time and stated, you know, I asked him what was his opinion about women who sit at home and who don't work, you know. And his thing was, oh no, you know, I would never date a woman who doesn't have a job. I would never get with a woman who doesn't have a job. My thing is, bills got to be split 50-50. If I work, she gonna have to always work. That's the bottom line. And when he said that like kind of triggered me, because I'm like, wow, you know, my husband doesn't have that type of mindset. You know, if push came to shove and he had to do it all on his own, he doesn't have a problem with doing that. You know what I'm saying? So again, you know, let's say had I took the initiative and left my relationship to go be with this guy, that would have been a culture shock for me. You know what I'm saying? Because I've gotten accustomed to being in a marriage in which I have a husband that handles everything. So that's the dangerous part about marriage. That person can get you so spoiled with certain things, can get you so accustomed. And when you try to step back out there and deal with other people who ain't about to deal with all that, it's like a culture shock. Same thing for you men. You may have a wife, you know, that love to work, love to help pay the bills, don't have a problem with doing her part. Y'all split the bills down the middle. That's always how it's been the last 5, 7, 8 years of y'all relationship. Now here it is, y'all ain't together anymore. You meet this new broad and she's beautiful, she's more gorgeous than the wife you had, she has a nicer body, but the drawback is she does not like to work. She's a trophy wife. So being that you was in in a previous relationship where you always had a woman that financially helped you contributed. You didn't always have to strain. Now here it is, you got this boss chick who's beautiful and gorgeous, all of that, but homegirl don't like to work. You got you a sleeping beauty. She likes to sleep and eat, and you do all the working. You get what I'm saying? And when things like that happens, sometimes in some cases it makes you regret. It makes you wish you would have stayed where the hell you was. Like, damn, if I knew it was going to be that bad, I would have stayed where I was. And that's what happens. In some cases, as I was stating, that you have some couples that try to move on and get back out there in the dating world, excuse me, and find out it's nothing like it was cracked up to be. It's none of what you thought. You have a lot of them that will go back to these miserable marriages just to avoid having a start over in a new setting with things changing. I mean, life is about changes, you know. Sometimes, as Pastor T.D. Jakes was saying, you know, the familiar isn't always good. Just because that's all you know and that's all you're used to, that doesn't mean that that is all you should continue to accept. You have some people that have become so complacent in their marriages and in their relationships. Even if it's not good, they become comfortable with it though. So when they have to go back out there and deal with people that's going to take them out of their element and take them out of the mindset that they are used to being in with a certain individual, it can be a culture shock. So you have a lot of people, married couples, who have gotten back together just because when they tried to go back out there in the dating world, they couldn't handle it. Another example is you probably if you was been married to a woman who's always been very humble, very submissive, and always kind of did what you said do, and never, you know, never really questioned you, never, you know, debated with you, and maybe something about it, you know, for a while it turned you, it was a benefit to have a woman who just did what you said, never spoke her mind, but over time, when you got in situations where you really needed her to stand up and you really needed her to have a backbone, she didn't have this backbone. But this woman on the side that you were seeing had a backbone. She put you in your place and speak her mind, and things like that turn you on, because that's kind of what turned you on at the moment, because you're so used to having this wife that's so docile and submissive. Now you getting bored with her being submissive. So this new boss chick seems more adventurous because she don't have a problem putting you in your place. But after a while, you leave your marriage or you leave your relationship to go be with this woman that's going to stand up to you, that's going to speak what's on her mind. She speak too much of what's on her mind. You'll start getting turned off with her, and what you would have stayed where the hell you was. That's what I'm saying. Marriage unfortunately has a way of making you, it conforms you to be in a certain way, you know. So when you have to go back out there into the dating world and somebody tries to change your element from that, it can be a culture shock. So again, as I was stating, you have a lot of men and women that are only returning to these marriages that they know they are miserable in, because they don't want to have to face starting all over and redating and dealing with the new world. Okay, so that's basically that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the 5th reason. 6th reason is there's a lot of miserably married couples is there is no trust. Yes, there is no trust. You guys and you ladies will be surprised how many couples are together and do not trust each other. No more than the warden would trust the inmate in his facility, okay, in the prison facility. 8 out of 10 married couples do not trust each other. Man doesn't trust his wife with money or to handle his personal affairs. Woman doesn't trust her husband to share her feelings. Let me back up before I go a little too much into this. I want to kind of clarify some things. You have some men that have been married to the same woman for years, and they do not trust their wives. They don't trust the wife to handle the money. They don't trust the wife to handle the bills. They don't trust the wives to handle the personal affairs. They would rather be the ones that have all access to the money. They would rather be the ones that pay all the bills so they can see where every nickel, every dime, every penny is going. They don't trust their wives, you know. And sometimes trust is one factor, but the second factor is it's all about control. You got some men and some women, but you have some men that are so controlling that they don't want their wives to handle anything, you know, because they feel like the moment he gives her a responsibility to handle, that kind of lets her in on certain things, you know. And for an example is, you might have a man that don't want his wife having access to his bank account. He don't want her paying the bills. He pays all the bills because that gives him the advantage of keeping her out of the finances. So as long as she's kept out of the finances, and depending on if she's one of those women that are gullible and submissive, she's not worried about where the money is going. As long as she knows the water is on, the cable is on, the kids are getting all their clothes and getting all their food, and they still get to go out of town and travel on trips, she's not concerned about the money. But the sad part is, you know, God forbid if something happens to him or he gets hurt or something, and he has never trusted her enough to have access to his business or to have access to the finances, you know, she's out of gas, she's lost, you know what I'm saying? So that's a bad thing when a man doesn't trust his wife to handle his personal affairs. And I know some friends personally where their husbands would not give them their debit card, would not give them their credit card. You know, my husband, I have access to his debit card. He has one, and I have he has one, and both of us, that card has the same access to the same account. He knows he can give me the card, and I'm not gonna go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and go on $1,000 shopping spree or get me some hair for $300, $400, $500. He knows I'm not gonna go crazy with his card, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, he needs me to handle business, because sometimes, depending on what he's doing, he don't have time to go stop and pay a bill. He may call me and be like, you know, yo, you know, go ahead and take care of the light bill, use the card or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But you got some men that are so damn controlling. They would rather stress and do it all by themselves if that's what it's going to take to keep the wives out of the equation, so that way the wives can't keep up what's going on with the finances. Okay? Now, you have some women, a lot of women who don't trust their husbands. Women don't trust. A woman doesn't trust her husband to share her feelings because she fears he may use it against her later, and may even use the things she has shared with him to manipulate her. In other words, if she has expressed, for example, if she has expressed how much she doesn't get along with her family, he may use that later. You know what I'm saying? In other words, if she has come to him as a husband and said, you know, me and my family, we don't get along. My family don't look out for me. My family, you know, whenever I really need them to be there, they're not supportive of me. At the time, he may seem compassionate, you know, and say, well, you know, don't worry about them. You know, I'm your husband. I'm going to be there for you regardless of who got your back or not. You know what I'm saying? The moment he gets mad, he may use that very same thing that she told him, and he may use it against her. Well, I'm the only husband you got. You know what I'm saying? Your own family don't even F with you like that. Your own family don't even have nothing to do with you. You get what I'm saying? She shared something so personal, so embarrassing to him. And, you know, you know, now that he's angry or upset, he's trying to use that to stab her with it. And it's not just men who do this. There are some women. And women, we can be deadly at it. When a woman knows a man's weaknesses, she has definitely no empathy. She tries to go for the gusto, you know, and it's sad that you have so many couples, unfortunately, that lack trust. They lack trust, and unfortunately, it has caused a lot of chaos in a lot of marriages, and it has caused so many married couples to be miserable because they just do not trust their damn partner. They do not trust their companion at all, and that's a very frustrating thing when you have a mate that you cannot trust, because that should be the main person you should be able to depend on. It's bad enough when you leave outside these doors and you got to deal with people on your job, and you got to deal with these people outside your household. You already can't trust them, so it's even more worse when you laying beside your mate or your companion every night and you can't trust that person. That's a really hard pill to swallow. Again, like I said, women, you know, in other words, if a woman has expressed how much she doesn't get along with her family, he can use that to his advantage later. He knows at the point he can get away with mistreating her because she has already expressed she isn't getting along with anyone but him. You know what I'm saying? So he can use that. He can use that to his advantage depending on how angry or upset he gets with her. Men also fear expressing feelings, because when women get vicious, they get malicious. She has no problem exposing all of his weaknesses, which in turn can make him feel less than a man. And women, we have a very we can get ugly. Women, we can get very ugly. We can get very catty. We can be very malicious and mischievous at times. We can go cutthroat, you know, depending on when we don't have our way. And you know, and for that, and that alone is why men have a hard time, you know, putting their heart and putting their all into a woman, because when women get mad, she has no remorse. You know, she will sting like a damn scorpion. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's really man and women. When people get angry and upset with you, they can use their weaknesses against you. You know what I'm saying? So, that's another aspect that can contribute to being miserably married. You know, is when you have a companion that you just really can't trust. You can't trust that companion with your money. You can't trust that companion with your information. That's a very, very sad situation to be in. If you cannot trust that person, I advise y'all start making some y'all start, you know, looking into other ways in y'all marriage, because it's just going to get worse and worse. I'm telling you, it really is. Then another reason for a lot of miserably married couples, many couples are together but they are not together. In other words, there are many couples that are together but are alone. Neither one of them on the same accord. Y'all would be surprised how many couples y'all see together holding hands and they are nowhere connected. They are nowhere on the same accord. They disagree about everything. They bicker about everything. You know, and you can be with somebody and still be by yourself. You know what I'm saying? I've known many people who were married and had their companions under the same roof as them, but the moment they get in trouble or the moment they have an obstacle, their mate will not support them. Their companions will not have their back. It's like they're pretty much out of gas, you know, and that's a sad situation to be in, because if you're down and out, you're supposed to be able to know that your mate is going to have your back if nobody else does. But you'll be surprised, there are a lot of miserably married couples that are under the same roof and are not together. Okay, and just keep in mind too, just because you're intimate and you and that person still having sex, that still doesn't mean y'all are together. If y'all not are emotionally connecting, mentally connecting, then I don't care how much you sex each other, that's still not connecting. You have to be able to mentally and spiritually connect to keep the relationship preserved or the marriage preserved. Another factor for miserably married couples is that some couples can't even stand the sight of seeing each other. When it gets to this point that every little thing annoys you, like how he brushes his teeth or how she snores in her sleep, you know, mediocre stuff that everybody does, that's not that big of a deal. But this is a true indication that you are miserable with your companion, where everything starts getting on your nerves. When you know they're getting ready to get off from work and you already dreading like, oh my goodness, what is he going to bitch about when he get here? What is she going to bitch about when she get here? When you already dreading being in that person's presence, that is a major red flag that you are miserably miserable. Somebody's going to have to wave a truce flag and end it before it gets any more uglier than what it is. Many couples are married and miserable because they are only together out of fear of aging. Many couples feel that they're too old to start over, and that they're too old to be going back into the world to be getting someone else. Yes, aging plays a big factor on why a lot of people are miserably married, especially with women. Women, you know, our body goes through changes physically. You know, as we get older, we don't have that same tight body shape unless you always been one of them women that always really keep up with yourself and you exercise. But the majority of us, and in some cases some men, depending on how you live your life, you may have aged earlier than your time. You may have grayed sooner. You may have lost more hair, receding hairline, and all of those other things. You start aging, and when you start to age, it's harder to go out there and meet somebody that's going to embrace all your faults, that's going to embrace your gray hairs, embrace your receding hairline, embrace your gain weight. A lot of that, you know, you learn to embrace it when you have been together for many years. But it's the chances of you stepping back out there and finding somebody that's just going to embrace that and deal with it, it's going to be pretty stiff. It's going to be like hitting a lotto scratch off for 10 grand. You know, the odds of it is going to be pretty small. So you have a lot of people that are miserably married because of their age. You know, the woman feels like she's not young, she's not pretty enough to just go out there and just grab another man. And the man may feel like, man, I'm old up in my age, you know, I don't have the energy to go run by for some young poontang and all this other stuff. So aging has a lot of people that are miserably married. So I basically broke down all of the elements for why there are so many miserable married couples. It's so many couples that are together, knowing they are not for each other, knowing there's been too much damage for the relationship to recover, knowing there's been too much disrespect, but because of fear and because of worrying that person is going to move on and do better, that's what keeps people in bondage. That's what keeps people hostage in relationships, because they fear that. Not understanding that if a person does move on and does do better, it doesn't necessarily mean that they could have done the same thing for you. And in a sense, they probably could have, but they didn't see enough in you like they saw in this other person to be willing to do better by you, to give you better. You know, so it's all type of factors that play into being miserably married. And if you are miserably married and you know you don't want the marriage anymore, don't keep holding on, draining yourself spiritually and draining a person that you know you done fell out of love with long time ago. It's not fair. Y'all both are wasting each other's time. You know, you're going to have to make a decision. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to leave this world wondering, when if I would have moved on when I had a chance. I mean, just certain things are not worth preserving. I'm not encouraging those that are married to leave their marriages, and I'm not encouraging those who to stay in their marriage either. You know your decision, and you have to do what's best for you. On that note, I will be conducting a Miserably Married Part 2, explaining the solutions to avoiding these issues from occurring, and I will also provide you with tips on watering those drought areas in the marriage, because marriage is not easy. Marriage is a challenge. I know I've been married for 17 going on 18 years. You know, so like I said, you know, I know the challenges, I know the ups and downs. I'm very well aware of it. But there's far too many of you miserably married folks out there who just holding on to people because you don't want to pay the bills by yourself. You don't want to see them move on with somebody else, or you feel like that's the best you can do. On that note, I thank you guys for stopping by and tuning in with your girl Lady Mocha at Cafe de Paris. Don't forget, you guys, did that like, share, subscribe, keep sharing the video, hit that notification bell so that way you will always be aware of the new recipes that I will be serving you guys on Cafe de Paris. With that being said, it's your girl Lady Mocha, and remember, I'm always pouring you a cup of truth, and I'm going to always break you off with a slice of knowledge. Y'all have a wonderful day, and I'll see y'all soon.